on my mind. Happy New Year and welcome back to the Boxing Show with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. As always, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment and subscribe. Stop it. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, joined by the usual two of Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clarke for our 2024 preview. Now, guys, over Christmas, we were all gallivanting across here, there and everywhere. Some in Saudi, some in Arizona. Won't mention where I went, but yeah, it's.
I went to Suffolk at one point.
Did you go to Suffolk?
I did go to Suffolk at one point. Essex-Suffolk border, so straddle two counties. I mean, that's globetrotting.
Yeah, Barry, where did you go?
Where? When?
There we go. Anyway, but what we didn't do, we filmed kind of half, or not quite half, of our 2023 review, which actually didn't end up going out. So you both.
It's too late now, isn't
it?
it?
You both got paid for it anyway, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Paid.
Exactly. It doesn't matter anyway. Moving on, they got paid. But anyway. So we're gonna do our 2024 preview today. So
massive bonus coming our way though if we win that podcast. That's what I hear.
They said I put something on the WhatsApp group. I don't really.
It doesn't respond in the WhatsApp group.
Not usually, but when I do respond, no one responds back. Like I did a bit about the train strike, which is no longer a train strike. Yeah. About that,
I put in a few calls.
At least we're going to have because it's a new year, new start, and a new fee. I think about right.
Well, he didn't say no, did he?
No, because you pretty much own everything.
It could be a new fee. Yeah,
it should be. Yeah.
Down.
You've always got to remember negotiations could go two ways.
George Groves on his platform now. All of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like it's like, do we need this? No?
Anyway, our 2024 preview is today. So we've carved out some categories. We've been extra organised to start 2024 because we're usually all over the place. So I'm going to start off. We've given people a little bit of a forewarning, which again is something we usually do on the way in, to come up with our picks. So with the esteemed Mr. Andy Clarke and Mr. Barry Jones in attendance, we're going to start with the prospect to have a breakout 2024. Now, prospect, I mean, I understand that we kind of over the course of however long we've been doing this, but there's a lot of what's a prospect, what's a contender. We're just going to go for somebody who's not a world champion.
Anyone who hasn't boxed for a world title.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's that somewhere around there. So, Andy, we're going to come to you first. You want to give us a little breakdown. I've put a few options and then my actual pick. So, Andy, going to come to you first. A prospect to have a breakout 2024.
This is cheating. Andy Cruz.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, it's not cheating because he does qualify, but it also kind of is because I know he's a really obvious choice, but he is somebody I cut track through the amateurs and watched a lot in the amateurs and was lucky enough to see live quite a bit, and his progress is going to be extremely interesting to follow.
Now, one of the reasons why we went for to have a breakout 2024 as opposed to your prospect of the year going into 2024 is to essentially see how it's going to play out for them. Now, Andy Cruz, while a supersonic talent, is in a very, very deep 135-pound division with a lot of politics, a lot of money. We've also seen him have, not an ideal turnaround between fights 1 and 2. As I understand it, there's been some management promotional issues in the background, unrelated to Matchroom. Shout out Eddie Hearn. Hi, Ed. But
he definitely watches this.
Yeah, of course he does.
Can you vote for us, Ed?
Yeah, Ed. That's another thing. Yeah, please vote for the Boxing Show for the for the Combat Sports Podcast of the Year. But anyway.
He's thinking, so you don't know who I am.
It's true. So the reason why I say that is because obviously with Andy Cruz, does he get there? What constitutes a breakout year for him? How does he get there?
Well, this is the interesting thing because so much is expected of him, and rightly so, and he has looked really good so far. But when people were talking about him turning professional, I did always feel like there was some work to be done, and it wouldn't necessarily be that straightforward, and it often isn't because people look at Lomachenko, obviously, and Usyk, who moved incredibly quickly, although not as quickly as Lomachenko, and Bivol. He got to world title level quickly and has stayed there since. And people feel like that can be done now, that it's not par for the course exactly, but there's still exceptions really that prove the general rule, which is that it can take time. So that's the fascination for me, is the natural ability is there in abundance, but there are all sorts of other things to take into account. And the depth of the division is one. You wouldn't say that he was old necessarily, but there will be some miles on the clock there in terms of how tough that Cuban regime is and the amount of fights that he will have had. So it's not necessarily going to be easy. And I'll just kind of await every fight announcement for him with great interest, because what do you do with him next, for example? As you say, that division is tough.
And having an elite and a super elite at that, Cuban, who people don't want to fight. And we spoke about it when he signed with Matchroom, about the job that Matchroom did, or the difficulties they had with Danny Aryalusinov, who was an Olympic gold medalist, elite supersonic amateur, who couldn't quite get those marquee fights in a glamour division at welterweight. And it's sort of similar here. How do you see, so Cruz is going to be your breakout star of the year. Does that include a world title, or does that include 2 or 3 big wins? The Keyshawn Davis fight might happen this year. That looks as though there's been talks about it, and that they seem to be building quite nicely alongside each other. What constitutes the breakout year for Andy Cruz for you?
I kind of feel like he's under pressure to win a world title this year. If they could get him boxing 3 times.
The belts are becoming so there's going to be opportunities there.
There is a vacant belt, isn't it?
I think he's vacated all of them, hasn't he? Haney. IBF's vacant at the minute. It looks like Lomachenko, Kambosos will box for that.
Shakur got WBC, haven't he?
Yes, the WBO is vacant as well.
Yeah.
And the what's left? WBA. Yeah, Davis has now got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Andy Cruz for Andy Clarke. Barry, going to come to you?
I've written on the same thing. Sorry.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, hang on. If I go first, right, says you fucking him, then it's fuck's sake you.
No, I'm joking. So you've gone for Andy Cruz as well. Obviously, we've talked
because
around
he
the
wins
point
the
a
world
lot.
title. I think. I think it's as straightforward as that. I don't think they're going to wait around with him. I don't think you have to.
I don't think they will wait around.
I think the way Strafford's not this world beater.
No.
And he's a guy who can be hurt and all the rest of it. But the way he just walked through him with ease, in the second fight was enough for me to say they're going to fast track him quick. And especially, because you have got no fighters around America you can build with. Shakur, how long he stays at lightweight, who knows? Because he might want to look for bigger tests. But Keyshawn Davis is going to be maybe his rival. And that's there's a great storyline there. So the quicker one of them picks up a world title, the quicker we get that fight, that bigger fight. I think if it can be made, if we take away cross promotional issues, then what would be? They're all going to Saudi to fight.
Teofimo Lopez is boxing Jermaine Ortiz. Sorry for people who watched the last show.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well done, mate.
Sorry.
At the start of February.
Yeah. We thought it was
That's
Jose
a good
Ramirez.
little
Ramirez is just Simon Golden Boy. Anyway, it's been a long start to the year. Andy Cruz is number 15 with the IBF. He's number 15 with the WBA. Obviously, only 2-0. But he's still ranked. He's on the ladder.
One fight he gets to number 3 and then he gets a title shot. I would say that. I think by the end of the year he's boxed for a world title and I think he's won one.
Okay, cool. So prospect to have a breakout 2024. You've both gone for Andy Cruz. Andy Cruz was on my list.
Bruce Carrington maybe.
Potentially another top rank fighter who was on my list was Abdullah Mason. Unbeaten lightweight prospect, 11-0 with 9 knockouts. He looks to be the goods. Also, Elijah Garcia, unbeaten middleweight, 20 years old, had 3 really good wins last year. And obviously, middleweight's quite wide open at the minute. But for me, my prospect to have a breakout 2024, it's a bit boring because it's a heavyweight, Moses Itauma. For me, I think he separates himself from the other heavyweight prospects this year. I don't think he wins a world title. We know it's going to be this, that, and the other with all the belts and this, that. But I think if they can get him 5 or 6 shots, I had this conversation yesterday, or that's a conversation on Twitter with Adam Abramowitz, where we spoke about Johnny Rice as a potential fight for Moses Itauma. And I think 2 or 3 fights time, he's ready for that. I think Johnny Rice, he had a win over Guido Vianello last time out, who he lost every round to Guido Vianello until he landed the right hand. And it was completely legitimate, right hand cut, fight over, TKO, thanks for coming. And he beat Michael Coffey twice. I think Italma beats both of those guys now. I think he beats Coffey, he beats Vianello. And if he can get to like by the end of the year, like a good international gate, like not VAC now, but VAC of maybe a couple of years ago, then I think that constitutes a breakout year for him. I think he will establish himself as the heavyweight prospect. And while I think we're all a bit more informed on Italma over on these parts, admittedly from what he did as a junior, and we know that there's a huge asterisk by those who haven't had those senior rounds as an amateur, then I think he gets it done. So I think Italma for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick, because you look at what they've done with him since he turned pro, and because they've done what they said they would, which is get him boxing 6-7 times in the space of a calendar year and step up the standard of opposition, because they've just quietly achieved it, it has maybe gone under the radar a bit, although they've given him as much of a spotlight as they can. But plenty of people say they're going to do that with a prospect, and then they just can't manage to do it for whatever reason, but they've done it. And he's impressive. When you talk to him, he's impressive as well. I sat next to him pretty much, or sat next to him and his family in Saudi watching Fabio Wardley, David Adelaide, and you're just kind of listening to him break down the fight as it's happening. And he's just extremely confident that he would beat, when the fight started, either one of them. And as the fight was developing, he was obviously confident he would beat either one of them. That's where he feels like he is already.
Yeah, and I think, don't get me wrong, like, his career so far has been either he blows you out in a round or he goes 6 rounds or whatever it was with Konstantin Dovbychenko. He boxed Kevin Espindola. Was it Espindola that he went the distance with, or was it the other guy? Fraser Clarke stopped him in a couple of rounds. I think it was Espindola. So he's had 2 bouts where he's gone the distance against. I'm going to double check that now because we're off to a terrible.
But he's
start.
had a couple.
He's had a couple where they haven't
taken rounds and he hasn't been.
Bad, that's not a bad.
No,
thing
absolutely,
for him,
exactly. It's perfect. So like, people make out, I think so far, that he's only fought guys who he's blown over.
No, that's not true.
And that's not true. And particularly at 18 years of age, it does bode well for the future.
My little worry about him,
it was Espindola.
And it's no real basis behind this. It's because he's such a laid-back character. What's he going to be like in a hard fight?
Yeah, but I don't think he is, though.
No?
No. When we're talking to him, I don't claim to really know him, but I don't think he is. I think he watches everything very, very closely, and I think there's a lot going on there. I think he thinks about things strategically, very much so. I don't think he is a laid-back character.
Okay.
One of the interesting things that I'd like to add to sort of the references.
I know what you mean, though. He's got that air of someone to whom it comes easy.
Nothing bothers me, but not in a chippy. No, the fighter should have a chip on their shoulder. He doesn't like he got that. He just looks like a better like.
Well, he had it. So he did the George Groves Boxing Club podcast, available every Wednesday on Boxing News YouTube channel. There we go. Big up.
Not quite as good as this.
Not quite.
But still good.
Nowhere near. And vote for this. Don't vote for that.
Why?
Because you're on this.
And they all yours.
3 of
them. Why do you care?
But anyway, it doesn't matter. And he said on the George Groves Boxing Club,
thing to have.
And he mentioned that he'd had a bad spar, and then his brother Carol, who of course was a very good amateur in his own right, professional as well, had to sort of get him to go do his run and make sure he did his run and stuff. And he had a bad spar, and he's like, I don't know if boxing's for me, and whether or not that's just the youth in him and being young and still. But speaking to Deck and George about it, it's like that's one thing to just look at, because you never know. But an 18-year-old wonder kid with the world at his feet.
Yeah, there's loads we don't know. Yeah. There's loads we don't know. There's loads he doesn't know.
But I'm going to put myself out there and say by the end of 2024, he establishes himself as certainly the best heavyweight prospect and maybe the best prospect in the sport. So that's going to be mine. So we've got... I think he could already be one of the best prospects in the entire sport. So we've got Andy Cruz, and Moses Italma for our prospect to have a breakout 2024. Okay, up next, we're going to come to you first, Barry.
What's that? Which one?
Fighter to become world champion in 2024. And now this cannot be somebody who's already become a world champion. So
Lennox Lewis.
Any world champions, we can just ignore him. Any world champions.
Michael Venom Page.
There's Barry's.
Was that someone?
That's Barry's suggestion. Fighter to become world champion in 2024.
I'll get his name wrong. I'll butcher it. Kolmatov.
Okay, interesting.
Easy.
Okay.
That's an easy pick, isn't it?
Okay.
I think so. He's massive. I like Lee Wood might be struggling for weight, but I bet you're glad he was.
Yeah.
Because that WBA title is vacant. He's gonna be box for next. I think.
Boxing Ray Ford.
Ray Ford is a really good fighter, by the way. It's a hard fight for him, but I just think the size of that
he's big, isn't he? We saw him in Arizona. He was massive.
Massive.
Yeah.
I know. I stood, the guys I was working with didn't know him. I said, see him? Featherweight. Featherweight. Oh, that middleweight. Yeah, he's a featherweight.
Yeah, he's a big old boy.
Yeah, he's big and he's technically good as well. And someone like Roy Ford, who got fast hands, fast feet, good lateral movement, that sort of that American style might cause him a few problems. But I think with the eye he has, the vision and the timing, I think he's a hard fight for everyone. I really do. I think he's going to be one of those guys who's going to be avoided like the plague. I mean, literally people moving up. Oh no, I can't make the feather. I'm not saying that's Lee Wood, because Lee Wood's showing his toughness and willing to fight anybody. But I mean, he might be other fighters go, yeah, I can't make featherweight anymore. And you go, what are you on about? You're only 9 stone 2. You walk around 9 stone 3. No, I can't make featherweight anymore. he might be one of the guys to be avoided. I think he wins a world title. I think he's almost a shoe into a world title.
Okay, Andy.
Caroline Dubois.
Okay. She's been calling out Rhiannon Dixon.
They've been put together.
Yeah,
they've been put together for the now vacant IBF.
Yeah.
When did that get announced?
Last week.
Welcome to boxing. The boxing news.
I had a great time over Christmas.
Boxing news. Boxing news.
Completely logged out.
Taylor's obviously been told that she needs to either defend or vacate.
Yeah, I saw that she'd vacated.
She's vacated. So yeah, Caroline Dubois, Rhiannon Dixon have been put together. Whether that ends up happening or not, who knows? But she's right up there with all of the sanctioning bodies. And if Taylor's going to vacate one, then she's just going after the biggest possible fight she could get now, Katie Taylor, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's very diligently defended those belts, which was why I could kind of put up with them being put into cold storage for an entire year, more like 18 months in the end, while she fought Chantel Cameron, because she'd done what a lot of people don't do, which is fulfill her mandatories for quite a long spell. But Dubois, there's just no way she isn't going to win a world title, and I think it'll be this year.
And also with women's boxing, they're not waiting long.
No,
because they're fighting for world titles in 4 fights. You can't go, I've been waiting for 2 years, because you only turned pro 2 years ago. Like with the heavyweight division recently with Dillian White and all, they've had to wait 2 years. They're all on. They're still within 10 fights, isn't it? What's Dubois? Rhiannon Dixon's only about 9 or 10 fights, I think.
Only a handful of fights, both of them. I think another thing as well is in the female code, and also in kind of like sub bantamweight in the men's game, the money's not really there to I mean, certainly not sort of super fly.
Be a stumbling block.
Yeah, you have to fight if you want to get paid good money. You have to fight the good girls, or you have to fight the good flies or the good super flies. You're not getting paid loads of money to have knockover fights. So that's one of the positives about kind of the seemingly lack of depth in the female game, is that you want to get paid well, you have to fight the good fights.
It's Rhiannon Dixon. I'll give it a fight, though, I tell you.
Yeah.
We'll give it a real fight. Be live on DAZN, of course.
There we go. Great company.
Well, this is the interesting thing about that. Sky put so much behind Dubois.
Gotta be on Sky.
You know, they just, the idea that she wouldn't be on Sky for them would be unthinkable.
They'll pull her out,
But then
surely,
you've got this, you see, there's all sorts that could happen, isn't there?
Yeah.
What's that? That would be
if
there's not enough money in it for that, is there? Let's be honest. And I mean, that's no disrespect to women. I mean, almost any fight except for the heavyweight fight is not going to go dual. Can't see it.
It'll be
go on Sky. Listen, they've invested so much. She's one of their flagship fighters.
Yeah, it'll go on Sky. Okay, so my fighting to become world champion in 2024. Again, I've done a few nearly missed it. So one was Isaac Cruz, was kind of in the shake-up because he's actually number 3. Yeah, he's number 3 with the WBO. Oh, I think he's number 4, and then there's no number 1, the number 3. But basically, the way the cookie has crumbled looks like he may box for the vacant WBO against Denis Berinchik.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So I quite like that.
I
like
that. I like
Berinchik,
but that's exactly what he needs, because he's
been waiting for for exactly where he is now, which is a vacant title, lofty ranking. I've defended the WBO international 15 times.
Yes,
I'm going to fight for the world title.
Good in Poland,
so he was one of them. Elijah Garcia was another one. I think middleweight's quite wide open at the minute, and I think maybe towards the end of the year he could get an opportunity. But my fighter to become world champion in 2024 is Ray Ford.
Oh,
okay.
Ray Ford. I think
Like
Ray
it.
Ford beats Komatov.
Yeah.
And Ford is somebody who I've been...
He's hot and cold, isn't he?
Yeah,
God.
for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
And over his career, I've watched him have fights where I thought he'd lost and I thought he'd underperformed. He had that split draw, which is, I think, was Aaron Perez or somebody. He had a draw that I thought that he'd lost. And he's very hot and cold. But I don't know about Kolmatov in a sense of, I don't know about you. I've only seen him box Thomas Patrick Ward.
Yeah.
And as good as he was against Thomas Patrick Ward, I don't think Thomas Patrick Ward wins a round against Ray Ford either. And I think Ford has developed it. I think he's a good, capable fighter, but I don't think he's...
I don't think he beats Ray Ford, but I do think because he's a good boxer, Ward, I think Ford doesn't have it all his own way for a while.
Yeah, obviously different styles, and
Okay,
Kolmatov's
exactly,
a destroyer
he's
a destroyer of men. But yeah, I think Ray Ford's going to beat him. I think Ford will be tricky. And I was impressed with him against Magdaleno. I know Magdaleno is naturally smaller and he'd been inactive, but I thought Ford did a really mature job on him. And I thought that was the type of performance that we hadn't really seen from him in his career so far, where he'd either been shit hot or shit, or, not great.
But just, and I agree with you, I agree with you, I do. But I just think that balance that up. There's a naturally smaller guy who's a lot older,
for sure,
against a naturally bigger guy who's fresh. It's down to timing and speed. No, I don't think Ray Ford is exactly blind speed like Amir Khan is, but I don't know whether you got the maturity in every thought for every punch. So having fast hands all the time, fast feet, is great, but it doesn't always work. A guy with really good timing, which I think Komatov has. I think we'll find out. It might just be that I've only seen that one real fight, really. I've seen clips of him, but that was only that one real thing I've seen against Ward. It looks like he's got that typical Eastern Bloc type of non-panic in their work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Look, sometimes that makes them quite methodical because they never panic. It's almost like they never, like their heartbeat never changes. So they can be quite methodical. Like Golovkin would just walk you down. You go early in his career, you don't have to walk him down. You just go beat him up. But they just walk you down and slowly, and I think they might have that, and that might be a problem against a guy with a slickster who can be fast and nip in with attacks. But I do think he'd be too big. But it's a good shout.
It's a really good fight, and I wanted to try and because we actually gave ourselves a little bit of time to think about these ones. I didn't want to go for some of the, and I was really happy that you said Otabek Kolmatov at the start, so that was very good. Okay, so we have got Caroline Dubois, Otabek Kolmatov wrong, and Ray Ford right. Okay, brilliant. Okay, now fighter to lose their world title in 2024. Now this couldn't be somebody who, for example, I mean, all vacant belts, so it didn't actually apply anyway. But you couldn't have picked somebody to become a world champion and then pick the loser to lose their world title, if that makes sense. So Andy, it didn't for me. Andy, going to come to you first. Fighter to lose their world title in 2024.
So I am going to say Beterbiev because he's got to box Callum Smith and then he'll box Dimitri Bivol. So for me, it was a toss-up between is it going to be Beterbiev or Bivol who loses that fight, and I would pick Bivol just to beat Beterbiev, and therefore he will win his world. He'll lose his world title.
This is the problem when you have two highbrow
first all the time.
I went to you first last time.
You could go for the other side of the coin there and say Bivol.
I don't think Bivol's going to lose though.
I think
there you go.
I think Beterbiev beats both of them.
Let me think this
beats
Smith and Bivol.
Well, he may very well beat Smith, but then
I think he beats Bivol.
I don't.
But we'll see. But that's not my pick anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I think it's incredibly close, that fight.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, of course, yeah, for sure. Okay, go on then, Barry.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, same as him, really. Yeah, I do. I go on Beterbiev. I thought that was a good one to go for because it's a fight where you could pick a million reasons why you would win it. And he might even go in as a favourite. Should go in as a favourite, I think. But I just think Bivol have shown at the highest level how he can stay composed. And I think though he didn't show it against Lyndon Arthur, but I think he can click through the gears a little bit more, which he's going to have to against Beterbiev. He's going to have to be a bit busier, constantly moving. And I think he holds the shot quite well. So I do think he'll have enough. His feet in and out. The judgment of distance is fantastic. I think against someone and I do think he does keep his defence quite neat and tidy. So I do think he squeaks home a win. I think it's that sort of fight, though. I don't think it's I think every round against Beterbiev is always a dangerous round, but I think Beterbiev is especially in the later rounds where he's going to make Bivol work really hard throughout the fight. So I think those last few rounds are going to be a struggle, and it'd be a great fight to watch. Actually, I think, but I do think he squeaks home.
Yeah, style-wise, it's perfect. Isn't it? It's a brilliant fight to watch.
Because it's boxer versus puncher, but it's not a boxer who dances around and
it's not a puncher who can't box. So
exactly,
it's
well put. I like that.
Brilliant fight. Yeah, so that's good as well, because particularly for you, Barry, you've gone for Kolmatov in a fight that's 55, 45, 60, 40, however you want to look at it, and then Bivol Beterbiev. So not some quite bold picks, which we're liking.
I could pick another one.
No, you've picked it now. Okay, so my fighter to lose their world title in 2024. I've got a few options as well. Ray Vargas was one that was in the mix. I think if he boxes Brandon Figueroa, I fancy Figueroa to win that. If he doesn't and he fights another featherweight champion, I think all the champions beat him. I do like Ray Vargas, though. He's a good fighter. The other name that I thought of was Alejandro Santiago, who just beat Nonito Donaire. He's boxing Junto Nakatani at bantamweight.
Oh, mate.
So I think
I
think Nakatani might beat Santiago. Although Santiago's a good fighter and it's not a given.
But flattered with the
But he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. But I think
Nakatani good, is he?
But my fighter to lose their world title in 2024, a fairly bold one, I think. But anyway, Juan Francisco Estrada. I think if Bam gets him, Bam beats him. And I think that's going to be the fight that he has this year. And I think it will be the changing of the guard.
I feel like I'm in the effort now, thinking about it.
Passing of the torch. And I'm going to go for Bam Rodriguez to dethrone Juan Francisco Estrada. I do think that fight will happen as well, because again, now for Estrada, he's not going to box Chocolatito again, not going to box Risaket again. Quadras just had another win, but still, he's not going to box him again. Who's he going to box? If you want to make any money at this stage of your career, Bam, you got to fight Bam.
Yeah, I think so. And otherwise you're on 5-figure purses.
Yeah,
that's the truth. That's how bad it is for those little guys.
Yeah. So I think he'll be paid not more than he should get, because obviously he's a legend.
Enough.
I think he'll get paid a bit on top because the zone and everyone know who is coming through, and so he'll get a nice little retirement fight.
That's a good pick. That is, mate. Well
so
done.
2 Beterbievs and 1 Estrada.
It feels like you had weeks to get ready, and we had 2 days. No, go on.
Okay, fighter to lose their unbeaten record in 2024. And again, no duplicates, so you can't be Kolmatov or Ford or Beterbiev or Bivol or any of these guys. So Barry, going to come to you first. Fighter to lose their unbeaten record in 2024.
This is good, but this is because I think he's the future of the division. Jaron Ennis.
Lose a fight.
Yeah, I got though. There's a caveat that he boxes the fighter
that who can beat him.
Yes,
Crawford.
Yes. yeah.
Jaron Ennis. That is not. I did not expect that.
No, Barry. I know. I'm a massive fan of his, and I think he's the future of the division. I love him. I think he's brilliant. But I think if Crawford gets him now, I think Crawford beats him. And he was going to lose the world title because he got his world title through the mail. But I think if Crawford, I want the fight to happen. I think because this is a career defining fight for Crawford. I mean, he had that Spence win, and to make him an all time great, he beats Spence, his biggest rival. Then he beats the next best thing to come along, which is Ennis in that division. I think he's the next big one. So if he beats him now, because he won't beat him in a couple of years' time, he might. Crawford might be a light middleweight then, a super welterweight. So we might not fight again. But if he stays there and they fight each other, I think right now the Crawford we saw the other month, is untouchable. So Ennis might be a bit too green for that, although he got great power and great boxing skills. And it's the best fight in that division, apart from Crawford.
That's an interesting pick. I can't see the fight happening.
No, I can't see it happening. But that's the fight. I think that's the fight. That would be my wishes as well, by the way, for that fight to happen.
Don't ruin it, man.
Well, I can't pick that now. Can I? So it's irrelevant. I got to pick something else.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, but that would be one of my wishes about that fight to happen. I think for Crawford to want to be known as an all-time great, to be mentioned with Leonard and Hearns and all those other great welterweights, we can go on forever about those. That's the fight. That's the fight that cements it. A young, world champion who's going to be a dominant force in years to come. Because Dennis might lose that and still going to be a dominant welterweight.
That's the thing. Like, I was literally about to say, like Mayweather Canelo. Like Mayweather beats Canelo. Canelo then goes on to do all of this stuff, and it just enhances the legend, doesn't it?
And also, you take that. You can swallow that defeat better than any other, because you know you're losing to. You're losing to him. Like, there's no shame in Canelo, was there? Except for he felt sorry for himself in that fight, but actually he learned a lot defensively. He took them from Mayweather.
Yeah, it didn't hurt him, did it, in the long run?
No, financially, he
did all right.
No, but what I mean is, but it didn't hurt his ego either, because who'd I just lose to? One of the greatest fighters of all time. One of them. And the same with Crawford. Crawford beats him. He's going, I just lost one of the greatest fighters of all time. Ennis will say that as well. They've been, and it's such a great fight as well. I mean, it'd be a great fight to watch, and he'd be in it. Every round he'd be in it. I think he's that good, but he just won't have enough. I think Crawford just knows too much. Crawford's brilliant, man. Yeah, so is Ennis. But that fight's got to happen. If not, I'll pick someone else.
It's a good one. I'll give you that.
Listen, let's be honest. I've got to say, I know I'm taking all the time, but I love it. But I'm taking all the time. But if we win the award, I've had 60% of the time. If we lift it up.
You're like Nigel Farage in the jungle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. That's what I got it from. Yeah. Is though the fights that have been happening in the last couple of years, I can see it happening.
Yeah, you never know. Like, last year was the year of the big fight, man. Like, there was lots of great fights last year that took us by surprise. That one would take me by surprise, but yeah, so it's a good pick. I like that. Good pick. Please don't fucking say Jaron Ennis.
No. I'm not going for that one. I had a long think about this one, and in the end, I'm kind of, rather than making a bold pick like that, I've made more of a percentage pick. Hrgović.
Yeah.
Because I think that, personally, I feel like that fight for the vacant IBF between him and Joshua will happen, and that Joshua will beat him.
Okay. Yeah, could definitely see that. Trying to think of who else he could box. Hrgović. He's probably not going to box anyone, is he, while he's waiting for that IBF?
He's going to wait for that.
Unless he gets a massive offer from Saudi to go and fight Zhang in a rematch.
Yeah, it's possible. Well, yeah, these things are all possible.
Yeah, okay.
Currently.
My fighter to lose that unbeaten record. I didn't do a multiple for this, so anyway, it's fine. Fighter to lose unbeaten record in 2024. I'm going for Jamal Charlo.
Yeah. I
think Jamal Charlo either boxes Canelo, David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, and I think all three of them beat him. Having said that, he wasn't as rusty as I thought he might be against Jose Benavidez, but Jose Benavidez is a 140 pounder.
Yeah, that's right,
yeah. So it's worth pointing that out. But he did look pretty well for somebody who'd been out of the ring for a couple of years at that point.
And the problems and all that.
Yeah. But I just think that if either of those three fights happen, which seem to be the most likely ones.
If he fights.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Canelo, Benavidez, Plant, they're the names that have been linked to him. Andrade's another name that's been linked to him, but I don't see that happening. Then I think they beat him.
Or what about Benavidez losing a beating record to Canelo?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's going to happen. I'd love it to happen. It seems as though the talks on that are potential for it to happen in September.
You've got to think, though, that's the only fight left, haven't it?
Big fight, big money fight.
For Canelo. Yeah. I mean, all Canelo's a big money fight. So, I mean, it's that one.
What about if Crawford boxes Canelo? Yeah. Still in the conversation, by all accounts. It seems to be.
I tell you what,
that'd be.
It'd be shit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm not keen on that at all.
I'd like to watch it from like a.
I'm not pretending I wouldn't watch it.
yeah, obviously.
But I just
but from an intrigue point of view, I would like to see what Crawford and Canelo looks like. But I'd want
to be there though, as much as we can. But we can't. I think all our snobbery stuff that it's not snobbery. It's just that we imagine the sport as being pure as it used to be, and it's not. So that for the intrigue of that. I'd love to be there for that fight.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. But I
don't want to see it. I don't. Yeah, really
but I never want to see someone lose purely because they box someone who's just too big for them.
Yeah.
And that's what would happen.
It's happened to me now.
Otherwise, I would never have lost.
That's what would happen. Yeah. That's what would happen.
Okay, so up next, a little bit of a different one. So what did we go for that anyway, by the way? So fighter to lose unbeaten record. Who went for Ennis? I'm still surprised, reeling from that. Hrgović and Jamal Charlo. Okay.
It's only the NSB boxers, Clarke.
No. Okay, Andy, going to come to you first. Who do we need to see something from in 2024?
Fury. Because if you think about what's happened with him since that third fight against Wilder, 2 straightforward wins against Dillian Whyte, who was a mandatory, so that had to happen. Then a straightforward win against Derek Chisora, and at the time that fight got criticised, but I felt of the options available, it was fair enough. And then he took the fight against Ngannou, which you couldn't blame him for, because the reward on offer, the money on offer was what it was, and we didn't know at the time. But as it turned out, what we wanted, which was Usyk, was in the pipeline, and we're now going to get it. But he's due. I think he needs to turn it on this year, and he's got the perfect opportunity to do it, of course. But I do think we need to see something from him.
Barry?
That's a good shout, that, mate. I've gone for a heavyweight. Jared Anderson.
That's a good shout.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's it. That's all I got to say then.
Go on.
Myself. I think because I picked him out last year, maybe the year before, saying that he might be the future of the heavyweight division. Him and that other monster.
Jalilov.
Who's not winning Olympic medals. Going to be in a minute. But yeah, I thought that them two were going to be literally going to be like the new Rocky movie. But he's looked a bit flat. I just think, and sometimes when everyone's heaping praise on you constantly, it happens to all prospects. They get to a point where even though they're not losing, all of a sudden you go in, is he as good as I thought he was? No, he's not having it all his own way anymore. No, he's looked a bit flat, but he's still winning, and I think that's important. But I think now he needs to get that next phase where he needs to start not just not making his mistake. Who's that, mate?
That's you.
Okay, thanks. Irritating little bastard. You sound like a little rat. And but I literally just you got to start. Fucking knife put me off now.
Sorry.
We were chatting to Jared Anderson on the stream at the
he don't like talking to media.
Gala Night of Champions thing at the Battle of the Baddest back at the end of October, and as he was chatting, Fury came over and said, "This guy's the future. He's the next big thing," and all the rest of it. And the fact that he was in Saudi kind of always makes you wonder whether something big is in the offing for him there. But obviously they're only interested in people really stepping up, but they did allow Hrgovic to fight Mark Demori.
I mean, a few of those fights that were on that card weren't the most competitive fights.
Yeah, there have been some of them as well. Yeah. But yeah, maybe before too long we will see him. It's a good to try and go to that next level.
It's a good pick based. Certainly, I think the Charles Martin fight did show a lot of his areas that he needs to work on.
Yeah.
A lot of his he's so freakishly athletic for a man of his size. He can do stuff like a 5'8", 5'9" guy can do.
But sometimes it exposes your technical
the fundamentals
stuff.
That he doesn't have.
Which I thought he did have, and maybe sometimes you go through the repertoire of skills. It always works. It's still working, but sometimes that gets exposed, and it's using your boxing brain now. And he does have. I think he has, because he has a good amateur career. But I do think, he needs to just show us something more now.
Yeah.
Like all fighters do. I think that you get to a stage where you've been doing really well and you're a prospect and you're looking like you're going to be the thing. But just show us that you're still on path this year. I'm not saying box for a world title, but this year should be a year where he just steps up a level, and then they start maybe thinking about matching him against people like Richard Torres at the end of the year, something like that, matching 2 undefeated kids. I love this cap.
It's good, man.
2 undefeated kids then who on the way up, and that being the match before they take that next step into genuine world title contention.
Okay, so my couple that didn't quite make it. One was Lawrence Okoli. You see something from Lawrence Okoli this year. Doesn't have a world title on the outside. Can he move up?
Could have said that every year.
Yeah, well, yeah, he could have. But now he doesn't have a world title. It's very much now like what are you doing now? Like what's going to be the plan now? So Lawrence Okoli was one of them. Tyson Fury was another, for the same reasons that you've pointed out, Andy. But who we need to see something from in 2024 is Ryan Garcia.
Oh, that's a good call.
I would like to see something from Ryan Garcia this year. It was involved in the biggest event of last year. It was a fantastic event. He came up short, and he did look short of Gervonta Davis on the night. Where is he? What's he doing? What's the plan? Okay, you want to fight Haney now? You want to fight Rowley? Are you going to fight Emmanuel Tago again?
I found it really interesting just watching him the last few months, kind of, the way he positions himself and goes about this business, because That was a damaging defeat against Davis for lots of reasons. But he's somehow managed to kind of just behave in the aftermath, or, you know, having left it a period of time, once he's resurfaced, he's continued to behave as though that's where he belongs. But there was no evidence for that.
That's why I want to see something from him, because I didn't feel like we saw it in his comeback fight either. I felt like he looked like a fighter who needs a lot of work.
He looked worse, if anything.
But it needs a lot of work. And when you have, they always see that thing that's on one of the new meme things where it's like, I don't know, have like one large thing and one small thing. And you think like reputation and profile is up here.
Yeah.
Achievements is here.
That's it.
And
that disparity can't continue, can it?
No. And this is going to be the year where, look, okay, the Davis fight, he can talk about the weight and he wanted to do it. And I think deservedly, the goodwill of making the fight, and he looked to be the one who really forced that fight to happen. I think the goodwill from that outweighs the negatives from the performance and what have you. But if you're going to be putting yourself in the Haney, the Lopez, the this, that, and the other bracket, we need to see it in the ring now. Can't just be Instagram followers and looking beautiful.
I agree with that. I think, he correctly got a lot of credit for stepping up. But you don't get to decide the level you're at.
No.
You have to prove it.
Yeah, and it's something that we spoke about with him in the past. It's like, I still feel like I don't think we've seen any evidence of him becoming a better fighter. There's arguments for him becoming a worse fighter since the Luke Campbell fight.
He was worse in that last fight.
Yeah, the shoulder roll and the this and the that.
I think the Davis fight is hard to judge him because he was beyond his level. So that's fair enough. Because you can't say how good or bad he is because he's just beyond his level. So to me, I think he has a bit of substance to him. I do think that, but not at that level.
Not yet, for sure.
And I think that would be the same. He might be fare better with people who are not so devastating punches as Tank, but still, he doesn't beat any of the top guys. I do think he needs to mingle around just that fringe for a little while and
looking at fighting
experience.
Rowley next.
That's a fight. That's fair enough. You know that's going to be for the world title, but really they're the fighters who are probably just
it's
below
not
some of the others, like, you know.
Yeah, it's not Teofimo Lopez or Subriel Matias or Devin Haney, who are the other champions.
Though I'd like to see him against Matias because he has raw power and speed. I'd like to see how Matias eats it up, which he inevitably will.
Yeah. Don't think Oscar De La Hoya would like to see that fight.
I would. My fight wouldn't be boxing Matias, I tell you.
No,
not at all.
Okay, so who we need to see something from in 2024 is Tyson Fury, Jared Anderson, and Ryan Garcia. Okay, up next is the one that we added this morning. So this one hasn't had as much nuance as some of the others. The fight to see in 2024. What's the fight that you want in 2024? We're going to go to Barry first.
I don't know. Well, it's Crawford Ennis. It's the fight I want to see for the reasons that I've already said. So I can just...
You can't have Ennis, though, because you've already picked him.
Okay. Crawford versus another welterweight.
When you made that rule, I thought it was just it only applied to fighters losing their unbeaten record.
I'm making up as I go
title.
along.
Okay,
if your answer's good enough, we'll let you break the rules.
Okay, yeah.
Canelo versus Benavidez. Then.
Yeah, now we're
talking. The fight. I think I think it might be passing the baton right now. I think Benavidez has been fantastic, high energy, big for the weight. It ticks all the boxes to give Canelo loads of trouble. Canelo. How long can he keep going on for? He's had a long, hard career, and he's looked fantastic in it, to be honest. But he's slowed down a lot, and he's been beat since Mayweather, and size might be a factor, but he might still have enough in his locker to give Benavidez lots of problems. So I think and it's two Mexicans. An all-time great and a potential all-time great. You don't know about maybe not, but Benavidez.
You never know.
You never know. But either way, I think it's the perfect fight to make. It'll be the biggest fight of the year, I think, outside of the heavyweight division. So yeah, I'd love to see it. And it's a Vegas fight where with all the big fights now going to the desert. It might be one of our few chances to get to Las Vegas before we never go there again.
Speak for yourself, mate.
What are you going there for? UFC?
Gabble. Anyway, Andy?
So, I mean, a couple I had my eye on do involve people I've already mentioned, so they might not be allowed. But I mean, there's lots of things that could stop this happening, but Fury Joshua. I mean, who doesn't want to see that? But that would depend on it would seem to be impossible if Fury beats Usyk because there's a rematch clause for that, isn't there? I think
two-way rematch clause.
Exactly. So that's a kind of a bit of a pie in the sky. But I would really also like to see Caroline Dubois against Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Hard to see that ever happening.
It is very hard to see that ever happening. Katie Taylor.
But this is the dreamers one anyway.
Brian Peters, if you're in the Katie Taylor business, there's not really anything in that fight for you.
Yeah.
Of course, Taylor's not going to be remotely scared of Dubois. No one's scared of anyone at that kind of level. But is there anything in it for you, really? But I would love to see that. On the domestic level, I don't think I'm nicking these off you. I don't think you're going to come out with these ones. On the domestic level, I do really want to see Fabio Wardley against Fraser Clarke.
Yeah.
I think we need to see it after all of the stuff that's gone on around it and all the chat.
Clarke needs it.
Yeah, no, he does. He needs it more, definitely.
You think of the pedigree he has as an amateur. It's phenomenal. It's a great storyline. If one with all the pedigree, who should be the one who's defending the title, against the guy with no pedigree, who's beating, who's showing that he's a revelation.
I feel like you could really
he's the full
make that into something.
He's almost a full. I don't think he's a world beater. But I mean, the way he talks, the way he looks, he's honest to a fault. I think about what he is and what he can do right now. He says, "No, I'm learning on the job." He's really he's articulate. He's everything you want. Like, he's a likable fella. He's almost what you want from a heavyweight. You know what I mean? He's either that or a real nasty bastard. You want one or the other, don't you?
I think you've got two guys there who could. I think you could really, if you just give it a nice long lead in time, get it announced to really get behind it. I think you could really turn that into something, and that'd be great because a British and Commonwealth heavyweight title fight being, sort of given the big push would be, and with the two characters involved, I think it could be. That could be one to really, a really enjoyable one.
It's one we've spoke about in the past as well, about how they'd both sell that really well.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
By virtue of both being guys who understand the game, still have enough respect for each other that you wouldn't have to worry about any of the foolishness that we had with the David Adelaide and Fabio Wardley fight. I don't think that would ever really be a problem. It's always in.
So actually, of those three that I threw out there, I'm supposed to pick one. I will pick that one.
Wardley versus Clarke.
Yeah, just pick a domestic one rather than a massive international mega fight.
Well, I could go to Saudi, maybe a massive international mega fight.
Live on TNT.
Well, you do. Yeah, I do wonder with this kind of new Saudi boxing regime that are put on the last two cards. When are we going to see a female fight?
Don't say regime.
When are we going to see a female fight?
It's a good point. We saw them on the skill challenge.
We did, yeah.
On the Usyk thing. It was
Ramla Ali box.
We did.
She knocked out that girl who looked like she was stoned.
Yes.
Before she got in the ring.
Yes.
It did, didn't it? It was awful, wasn't it, actually?
Yeah. Well, she knew what she was there to do, right? She was there to get knocked out, and she was very... But anyway.
This latest incarnation, when are we going to see one? I'm curious. I am curious.
Yeah.
Because they can make fights happen that we don't think can happen. Can't they? That's their.
Yeah,
I guess if there's
name one.
Is there a female?
That's their MO.
Is there a female
that's their
fight
stated mission.
That has the clamour for it though. Is there?
Well, Taylor Serrano rematch.
Yeah, Taylor Cameron rematch. Third fight. They're the real ones, aren't they? Really.
Yeah.
I mean, what they probably look to try and do is, can they tempt Taylor to go up far enough and get Shields down low enough to do that? That's the kind of thing they'd be thinking about.
They might want to, yeah.
That's the kind of thing but it just occurs to me that we are going to have to see one.
Yeah.
Oh, just do cross-gender boxing. Don't worry about it.
That's enough.
Just make middleweights box male flyweights and even it up with that. So
I don't want to see that. With
sticks.
No. But I know what you're saying. It's going to have to be
them sticks and them knives. It'd be fine.
It's going to have to be something sort of a bit gimmicky.
Or
you'd think
that's not good for women's boxing, though.
No, it isn't. But where is the traditional fight that's? Or with all due respect, big enough to go on to one of those big Saudi.
Yeah,
cards.
that's true.
Go on, maybe not top of the bill. To go on the card, Cameron versus Taylor is a fight that can go on any card, I think.
Yeah.
with enough credibility. I mean, it tops the bill.
If you've got Daniel Dubois on the same card, get both Dubois on the same card. Dubois Taylor, you got to
Daniel
think a bit.
Dubois would stop Katie Taylor really quickly, man. I don't really talk about
I don't think. I think she'd make him quit.
Right. Okay. So that's some interesting ones there from Andy. Good. I like it. Some different ones. My fights to see in 2024. So a couple of that didn't quite make it. Teofimo Lopez versus Subriel Matias.
Yeah, I love that.
I love everything about that fight.
That.
Style-wise, it's great. You'd have the Lopez's going mental, and Matias he doesn't speak English, but when he translates what he says, he's the most terrifying man. He speaks exactly how you would hope he speaks.
He was in Phoenix, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
I thought it was him, and I was going.
Yeah, he was in Phoenix.
Because he's a nightmare for Lopez. He is, because all the little tricks and feints and all that won't work. He's
a nightmare for all of them. He is, but Lopez on his night when he's at his best, the Taylor Lopez, the Lomachenko Lopez, that's a hard fight to beat. That's a hard fighter to beat. So I like that. Canelo versus David Benavidez. Yep, I think if we don't see it this year, then I don't think we'll see it, because I think Canelo goes out too far down the hill and Benavidez probably gets a bit too good, and then it becomes. I think if it happens in May or September, if it happens in September, it depends on what happens in May with Canelo and what have you. Then I think it's a 50-50 fight. 50-50 fight. But I think if it goes another year where Canelo has another year of wear and tear and Benavidez gets better again, because, I mean, look what he did to Andre.
Yeah, that's right.
Then it loses a bit of the luster. I think now is the time. This year's the time for that fight. But my fight to see in 2024 is Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. It's the fight I've wanted for so long. And yes, Shakur Stevenson and his last fight put a glass eye to sleep. But you still got to beat him. You still got to either chin him if you're Gervonta Davis or outbox him or whatever. I love that fight. As unlikely as it is to happen, it's the fight that I've felt for quite a while now. While Shakur, even when Davis was kind of doing his thing between 130 and 140, that's the fight to really settle who's the guy at those guys, which is really unfair on Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez when you consider what they've achieved. But I just think from the eye test and whatever you want to call it, that's the fight, Davis and Stevenson.
Yeah, that's a good fight.
It's a great fight.
I could potentially see it.
It could be shit as well.
I was just about to say, I could potentially see it being very standoffish and not a lot happening, but I want to see what happens.
Because if Stevenson can just negate him, which he
can definitely do.
Yeah. And with Davis's work ethic, then it could be a real stinker, because Davis would just think, but in the end I'll catch him, I'll just keep.
They're both patient, aren't they? They're both so patient that it could just be a lot of posturing for a long time, and then either the fight is over like that when Davis lands, or it's just posturing for the 12 rounds, and you'd expect Stevenson to probably win it if it goes the distance.
Well, Stevenson realizes this, and I can't have him jumping in on me. If he jumps in and catches me, I'm done. So I got to fire quick and fire hard and put him on the back foot. Yeah.
Let's pick some winners from those then. Barry,
what?
Your fight, Canelo Benavidez.
I think Canelo still. Okay. I'm not confident of that at all, actually. But I picked him. Maybe the end of the summer. We talked about this fight, I think, maybe, and I picked him then. So I'm just gonna pick him still now. But times now, as you said, the clock's ticking for him, I think. Yeah, but I still right now. If it happened now in like the summer, then I'd say Canelo.
Andy, who wins, Clarke or Wardley?
This is why I like it so much, because, like you say, the backstories are great, because you got the wealth of international amateur pedigree against a guy who came through white collar. Fabio Wardley's never lost. He had 4 white collar fights, and now as a pro, I chatted to him in November when we were doing a bit of work together, and he says it's quite a weird feeling having never lost, because every time you win it just kind of builds that bit more. He's interesting to talk to about that kind of stuff.
He looked really good to work with as well.
Yeah, he was great.
He's a good talker.
Yeah, he was really good. I pounced on him for the book, which I rarely mention. The fact that I've been writing a book, people probably don't even know. Finished it. But
what's it about?
Knockouts.
Oh, stop going on about it.
The mentality of the knockout fighter. But he was very interesting on that. But largely because he's never lost, and he knows that when he does lose, because he's a heavyweight, it's probably going to involve getting chinned. So he was really interesting to chat to. I think you have to make him favourite based on what he's done and the fact that he's the champion. I think you would have to. But I don't know. I don't know who would win that fight. That's why I want to see it.
The whole point of all of these fights are fights that could go either way. Davis and Stevenson.
I know a fight you want to see more of. Need to see more of this year. Fraser Clarke. Did you say that already?
No.
That could be another.
No, we need to see something from. Yeah, that's
see something from. Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah. Because I think he's a kid who, again, all that pedigree, talent, and ability, and all the rest of it. But again, the fact that Fabio Wardley would be a favourite in that fight sounds ludicrous.
Yeah.
But it's true. It is true because he's boxed at a higher level, and he's shown better qualities against a guy who should have it all. Really, I've been disappointed with Clarke, and maybe not his fault. I'm not blaming anyone, but I've been disappointed. I thought
could just take that big occasion to uncork it, couldn't it?
Yes, of course he's boxed at the highest level, so his mindset and his bottle and all the rest of it is not going to be questioned.
No, for sure.
I don't think so. And no, but I also worry that he waited so long he did the right thing by waiting so long for his turn for the Olympics, that he might have left his, like quite often, he might have left his best years in the amateurs, and that might be a worry.
It is tough.
I hope not, because we want to know. Again, we need domestic heavyweights to get to beyond that level and move up, and fighting each other will help them do that. And so that's a really good fight.
That decision's a tricky one, isn't it? I was thinking about that recently when Anthony Fowler called it a day, because I just look back at his amateur career and I think if he turned pro after he won gold at the Commonwealths, for his pro career, that would have been the absolutely perfect time to do it. But of course he didn't, and he was never going to, and he was right not to, because he wanted to go to the Olympics. But he had quite a lot of damage in those 2 years. And with Fraser, he was flying that Rio Olympic year. He was brilliant in WSB. He chinned a couple of fighters who did go to the Olympics. And I think if he'd gone, if you were allowed to put 2 fighters in, he might even have got a medal. And then slipstream into the pros, that would have been, for his pro career, that probably would have been the best time to do it. But of course, he wants to go to the Olympics, and then that turned out to be another 5 years.
And also, it's that when you turn pro, you're getting a wage straight away, and with a medal in the Olympics.
That bronze medal would have. That really did work for him.
So financially, he did the right thing. But maybe
he did.
In the short term, and as a boxer, you always got to think. It's great thinking long term, but you don't know what's going to happen. You might feel a brain scan. Your career's over in a second, so you just don't know. Or you might just not have it. You might get chinned. O'Hara Davis, he gets caught with in the first round, and your dreams are over. Temporarily or permanently, who knows? But so you have, if the money's in front of you, just take that.
Yeah.
And it might not be the shrewdest long term, but you don't know if you've got a long term in sport. Injuries. Listen, if it wasn't for injuries, the whole face of all sports would be different, wouldn't it? Of course. Best players on the planet wouldn't be the best players on the planet, because the best players, probably the most skillful players in football or boxing, whatever, retired with injuries after 2 fights or 3 games for their club or whatever. I'm talking bollocks.
I know what you're saying though.
Thanks. Right. I had to make a point the long way round. Vote for us, don't forget.
Don't forget, vote. And when he says us, he means this, not toe-to-toe. Anyway. I think Davis right now maybe gets to Stevenson, but is behind considerably when he does so. Anyway, moving on to our next prediction. We won't go for that one just yet. Okay. One thing boxing needs to change in 2024. Andy Clarke, gonna come to you first, good sir.
So this is, I usually rail against things like this because I dismiss them as being irrelevant because they're never going to happen.
All right, Andy, it's my award.
I am going to say, and then I will immediately contradict myself in a sense, I'm going to say that this needs to be the year where somebody needs to plant a flag and say no more rematch clauses. And I feel like the Saudi...
He's reading my stuff, man.
I feel like the Saudis... Although they've permitted one for Fury Usyk, which was probably the only way that could get over the line, I feel like they could set that example with these big fights and big nights that they're making by saying no rematch clauses. If we feel that a rematch is required after the first fight, then everybody knows we have the power to make it happen, the financial power to make anything happen, but there will going forward be no more rematch clauses in our fights. And you can only really... You can't introduce it across the board because we all know the reasons why you can't do that, because there are far too many factions involved. But I feel like that is something that they could do, although I'm aware that there is one for Fury Usyk.
True.
That's a good one. Good one. Come on then, Barry.
No, I'm not. I'll have to change that. It was that because I hate rematch clauses, and I think you know that. And
that's why he picked it.
I knew he was going go to me first. Go to me first. It's because they're cheating other people out of careers, out of work by doing this. Fucking bollocks. And it's just a money grabbing scheme for everyone involved. That's all it is. It really is. And if a rematch is warranted, then fair enough. If it's a close fight or controversial fight or whatever it is, then fair enough. But if it's not, like, how can you demand everyone to watch a rematch? Ironically, we've had that like in the last few years, and the fights have been better than the first. But it's still all the other poor bastards who have to wait in line. It's not fair. It's the drug testing then. Let's go to the other obvious one. And to have a universal testing that we all know what it is, clear guidelines in what's a pass or a fail, with accountability, regardless whether you know what's going on in your body or not. You should always have to know. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. Everybody, you're all fucking guilty. No, it's but either way, I do think that if we had one, I don't know enough about it, but if we had just one testing thing, which is like a fantasy land, isn't it? Where you just everyone knows what you're allowed. Wherever you box around the world, you can only take these substances or these things to help you, and you can only do this one way. And if it's in your system, it's your fault. Whether someone slipped in when you were asleep or whatever, or or you got, or you're doing it, whatever it is, you have to take the blame, accountability for whatever goes in your body, and we all know what we have to do. It seems to me that I don't understand it all too much, but because there's too much information, it's all muddled. But like, you can take one drug in one state, one drug in another state in one country, for fuck's sake, and then in another country, depending on who you get tested on in this country, if VADA do it or you can't do it, it's a different system of testing. Is it a different system of testing, or they test for extra stuff? I don't know if I can know what it is, but either way, nobody knows. So it allows people to slip through the gaps, and it's not fair. And then in the end, then no one will take. Either people just carry on taking and take the chance, and if they get away with it, good luck to them. They're making loads of money and they're winning titles, or do they know in their heart it's not real? So fuck them. Or they get caught, or they won't take it because they know, well, we can't take that, and you know what you can take, and you know what supplements you can take and allowed to take, and then everyone knows then, well, I can take this because I'm allowed to. And I understand that we have our chemical balances are different to other people's. Is that right? So so some things you can take so much of. It all sounds really expensive already. I don't know what I'm talking about. So maybe I can take more fucking testosterone than you can, because or you can take more than me, sorry, because I'm more of a man. Sorry,
I knew you were going to reverse that. I think you see the cogs turning. You got it wrong, and he was
I'm thick as shit, but I ain't that stupid. So if we had one clear system, then when someone gets caught, they're caught. No, someone gets caught and they're not quite caught because they generally haven't done nothing wrong, or there is a loophole. That's it.
In terms of a deterrent for that,
I don't know it though. I'm talking on my ass.
No. But it's a really complex thing because it's so shambolic. But in terms of a deterrent for that, I was talking to Don Charles at the airport on the way over to Saudi before Christmas, and obviously he had Daniel Dubois fighting Jarrell Miller, and I was just asking him how he felt about that, basically. But we're just talking about the whole thing in general, and he came up with a good idea because the deterrent isn't really there at the minute. But if you made it contractual that you don't get paid until your post-fight drug test comes back clear, that could work.
Oh.
Because money is what fighters box for, isn't it? They're prize fighters. That could work. But again, that relies on you getting a kind of critical mass of fighters who are willing to do that. If everybody just says, well, I'm not doing that, then you're never going to be able to make any fights, are you?
To be honest, depending who you box for, your drug test would be back before you got paid anyway. Some promoters don't pay you for months. And some pay you like in a week. So, it's like it depends who you're fighting for. But yeah, it's not a bad idea actually. But who'd sign up for that? But then you shouldn't have a choice.
That's what I mean. That's the problem,
isn't it? Then we go beyond the drug test, and it becomes having one universal, which is probably might be your thing. Which is what's your
my thing? Boxing needs to change in 2024. I had a few. Uniformity and drug testing was one of them.
Oh, that's what I should have said.
I would like to do away with 36 hours to rehydrate. I think having the weigh-ins on 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday when you're fighting at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, it's 36 hours. That's a long time. And that's why
when we got those weights for Hayley Regis Prograis, I was pretty alarmed.
It's mad, man. And it's also not healthy.
You can make 140 and fight 165.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy for the fighters who are cutting the weight. It's not healthy for their opponents to be going in there with guys who are so much bigger than them. I would like to see that change. And also from this really doesn't matter one way or the other, but I like the weigh-ins when it's 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the fighters are on weight and then they're doing the face-off, and not when they've had a drink and they're eating 3-4 times and stuff like that. From the spectator side of things, when you know they're making the weight and they're getting on the side and that's the face-off, that's much better.
No,
much better.
Real weigh-ins are great. I really like it. They can be wild, can't they?
You can really feel the tension.
I've said to people before, and they look at you like you're mad unless you've actually been to them, but they smell proper weigh-ins.
And also,
it's the sweat and the adrenaline and the bad temper, basically. They've got that whiff about them. Literally, I'm not just kind of trying to be poetic. You walk into that room and you kind of, it is just like a load of caged tigers just prowling around.
Yeah, so that's one that I would like. That's one thing.
My last weigh-in, stunk till I shit myself. He was massive.
It's a weight loss strategy.
When I seen that Freitas kick, obviously when I boxed him on the night, he was 3 times the size of the weigh-in the afternoon before. By the way, it's the afternoon before, not the morning, but still too early.
Yeah.
But when he made the weight, he didn't fucking make the weight. He still would have beat me anyway. But he was like a dead man walking. I mean, I was confident. Look, he's never going to recover by tomorrow. I got that wrong. One of many things I got wrong that weekend. but he was, honest God, he was like that. He could barely fucking walk, and I just thought. And then when it was a big hoo-ha, he didn't jump on the scales properly, and they were all going, "Get back on!" He drunk a drink, and my trainer smacked the drink out of his mouth and all the rest of it. And I was just going, "Oh, I don't fucking know." I don't upset him. But I'm like, I didn't care. I thought, I want to fight him more than anyone else. And look at him. He looks mad. He looks done. And I think you're right about that. But the problem is, the only true reflection, have the weigh in on the day. Then you have the weigh in on the day, fighters will still cheat, and then they can't hydrate enough to make it safe.
This is the thing that you always run. This is the thing that you always run into with any problem like that. Is that forget boxing. While there's sport, forget sport, business, the way the world works, people are always going to look for an edge no matter what they're doing. And when you consider the amount of money that's at stake for sprinters, for footballers, for boxers, people are always going to look for that edge.
People push things to the nth degree. And they don't. The thing is, sorry to interrupt, but when you speak to elite level athletes, the more of them you talk to, the more you realise that the concern that, we would have for our physical well-being, they don't give a shit. They don't have. I mean, I think we all read the same thing before Christmas at some point, or some article that was written where somebody spoke to athletes and said, if I said that you would win an Olympic gold medal, but you would die at 40, would you take it? And most of them said, yeah.
It was a massive percentage of them said, yeah.
When I had a problem with my brain scan stuff, I went over at 23, so they had a problem with my brain scan stuff, and they said, there's a possibility that you might have increased senility in later life. And I said, that's a fucking moral, that's not medical, that's a moral decision. Because what happens to me after I box is irrelevant to you guys. That's my choice.
Yeah.
I'm risking my younger life. I'm risking my older life for a better quality of a younger life, or to make a life for my kids.
Yeah.
That was my fucking choice. And every boxer makes that choice, because anything can happen to anybody. We all understand that. They're just saying there's a highlight here. But they had no right to stop me from boxing with that. Which they couldn't. But I mean, I didn't think twice. I just thought about, if someone said, listen, Barry, there's a chance you might die in the ring, then I would have gone, fucking hell. Once they said that, in my later life, I'm fucking 70 now. Yeah, I'm closer to 70 than I'd like, and I'm thinking actually fucking 70.
But you know what? I only half believe you when you say that if they'd said I would die in the ring that I wouldn't have boxed. I'm not sure. Maybe you would have, because
at the time when you're an animal, you're not who you are now.
Fighters I've spoken to, when you ask them about the risks, and were you aware of the risks? And one thing that annoys me about the anti-boxing lobby sometimes is that they look at boxers as being ignorant of the risks, and they don't know this, and they're fooled. They know, But their ambition to do what they do just so far outweighs any concerns they've got about later life.
I think so. Well, they do know. This is a different conversation, but it's good. They do know, but we don't really understand. So we don't really get to see. Like, we talk to boxers who have that punch drunk syndrome. Sorry, it's a fucking disrespectful term. And we see them from yesteryear. My generation and generation before me are worse. And I think this new generation might be worse again because they're boxing into late in their life.
And also the gloves nowadays, I don't think are helpful for that.
So, and then you just think, oh, he's not in great shape, is he? But I mean, if you were seeing proper studies or a video, this is what might happen. You know, people dying in their 50s because of that, because of boxing and brain injuries, not just fatalities in the ring. We just think about fatalities in the ring. We don't think about other stuff that you die of because of brain trauma, and maybe that's an issue. But what I was saying about the weight is that about being disadvantaged. So if I box, go back to me because it's easier. I boxed that Freitas and we weigh in on the day. That's not safe. That's not safe for him. It's not safe because he's weighing 10 stone on the night. And I'm 9 stone 7. That's what I was on the day. So I only put on a few pounds, like 5 pounds. I was 2 pounds under the weight, for God's sake. So and then in those later rounds when he's bashing me up, he has nothing left. He still beats me. That's the truth. But I mean, he might not. But then it's not safe for me when he comes in the ring at 11 stone, and I'm still 9-7 on the night, the next night. So then it's not safe. So who are we protecting? We're protecting him. Because we don't want to get brain trauma. Of course we don't. Because he's got no fluid around his brain. Not against me, I don't punch. But it's not about having power. It's about accumulation of punches. But then there was no thought for my safety. Because we're weighing too early. So the weigh-ins could be the same day. But then their argument is everyone's struggling to make the weight. Everyone's dehydrating. You're both at risk. I don't know how you work it out.
It's very difficult.
No,
I mean,
really
the WBC have the weight management.
Did that make any sense?
It does make sense because it's professional sport. The nature of it is that professionals will do whatever they can to get an edge, and you cannot underestimate
particularly with
that.
Boxing, like when people talk about like performance enhancing drugs in boxing, I always say to people like, if people will cheat to win 100 meters, what do you think they'll do to win a fight?
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
What, to win 100 meters? Or cheat to win a fight?
No, I don't need to be that fucking fast. I am.
No,
I would never take drugs.
Not a blanket thing for everybody. You know what I mean?
It's easy to say you wouldn't do it, by the way. But then it wasn't as accessible. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Accessible.
Yeah. Accessible back then. Maybe it was, but I didn't see it. But I always thought I wouldn't take a paracetamol back then. No, I'm popping pills for fun, but not for drugs. I mean, for pain. But back then I wouldn't take anything, and not because I was drug test. I was a fit, healthy guy. Why do I need to take that? My body will look after itself. I was one of those who thought, until it's really bad, then my body will repair itself because I'm fit and young. But except for what's the one that gives you a big hand on? But so I don't know where I'm going here. But either way, I mean, some people just generally won't do it. Some people do have a moral compass about stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
But when everyone around you's doing it and you know it, you just think, and when you see the top fighters in the world get away with it.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? Right. Yeah. But that was what I was going to say. The weight management program WBC, they weigh you after at 30 days. I think 14 days and then 7 days. Or
it's like the border control here.
But
that's dangerous.
I was going to say
because you
the
can
problem
crash
with that is
the
because
Grove
said about all you're going to do. You have to just make weight 3 times.
Yeah, so all you're going to fucking do.
So that's what I mean. So like the answer to how do you? I mean, it isn't an answer, but one answer that you could give to how do you make it more fair is say, okay, well, you do all the weigh-ins at 2:00 in the afternoon, and then there's a rehydration. Like they do with the IBF, you do it for every weight class, for everything, and on the fight day you can only be this. But again, you'll have people who put too much on, so they take some off, and then they'll after, like, when's the rehydration? When's the second day weigh-in? Is it 11 in the morning? Because then you can still pack it on until you're fighting late in the night. So there's always a way to.
Yeah. But then the problem you got with boxing like that, boxing because it's a sport that doesn't have a fixture list, is that unless you have a replacement ready fighters are going to go, fuck it, they're not going to make their weight. What are they going to do? Find me 100 grand? I'm in 12 million. You know what I mean? What are they going to do? Like, you'll just, we've seen that
Danny Jacobs against Gennady Golovkin was like a recent, very famous one where he just blew the rehydration clause. So what made the IBF get rid of it for unifications. He was like, yeah, no, fuck that.
Yeah. And then he's doing, so what's when I'm that rule when people just break the rules? And there's no incentive. And also, that rehydration clause is another worry because you make the weight and then you can't
rehydrate.
Some people are actually just bigger people, aren't they? You know what I mean?
And it's always dangerous when you limit somebody's rehydration for whatever reason. So it's never like the
what we find out is there's no foolproof way to do it.
There isn't, because like you say, that system that the WBC have got and that the board have got here, that should work. And there's a rule that most people watching all know, but some people might not, which is that you've got to be within 3% of your fighting weight 3 days out. So on Wednesday, you've got to be within 3%. And every now and again, someone will fall foul of that. And if you do, you're then not allowed to make your championship weight because it's deemed unsafe. But that, you can just have 2 weigh-ins that week. You crash a load of weight late on to make your 3% on Wednesday, and then you probably put it back on afterwards on Wednesday, but then halfway through Thursday you've got to start taking it off. I mean, it's just that yo-yo effect on the body. The trauma is absolutely absurd.
I was going to say, you end up doing more damage.
Like everything, it's education from an early age, from the amateurs when you first turn pro, and you need to learn. And need to more people know about nutrition. I know nothing about nutrition, by the way. I won a world title on Coca-Cola and Mars bars, but you know, it's like
might be a chance for me.
I don't think so.
That ship has not sailed, Rob.
But I mean, that education
to get down to super feather.
That education about nutrition, also the dangers. We all know the dangers, but we don't really know to have it almost like take them somewhere and show them these are the dangers. What can happen if you don't do things right, and empathy for empathy for your opponent. But what happens? You might not be the one sat there, but you might put the guy who sat there. Imagine living with that for the rest of your life. Yeah. Look at the trouble the Eubank has with Michael Watson to this day. He still can't, that stays with him forever. Yeah. Michael Watson suffered the worst of it, but I mean, that's a nightmare every night for him. What he done to that fella, and it goes everywhere. So you need the education about how to make weight and the understanding and also the implications it can have. If that and it'll take a long process, and by that time we won't be boxing, we'll be hybrid into other sports.
WBC are doing something now where they're doing like a monthly, if you're a part of the top 15, so similar to what they do with the clean boxing program, then you have to enroll to this app that you have to give your weight every month. So even if you're not active, you don't have a fight scheduled, you have to show that your weight is within a certain percentage of your championship weight. I think I'm sure, as always in the world, there'll be a workaround. Sorry, Mauricio. But apparently there's a way that, I don't know, you have to do a video or you have to get it done by a doctor or something like that. So it's like an app to track it. So that's going to come. Okay, right. Going to move on. We've got our last couple. We're not going to do that one yet because it's kind of very similar. So we're now Fighter of the Year for 2024. Okay, Barry's going to go first.
Yeah, Barry's definitely first.
What? Yes, me. I'm going to make it a comeback. It's featherweight, but I'll be a middleweight. No, anyway.
Okay. Was he your Fighter of the Year for last year?
No, he wasn't. I think he was close, but I still give it to Crawford because he was the most defining fight of the year.
Same.
And the manner in which he won it, I think.
Same, yeah.
And I was there. Didn't go to Japan. No. But yeah, I think Inoue wins it this year, though. I do. I think he keeps hold of this super bantamweight division for a while, and then moves into featherweight, and picks up a title there.
Do you think he does that this year? Goes to featherweight.
Yeah,
this year?
I do. Yeah, I think he'll search for greatness now.
What's his 2024 for you, fight-wise?
Akhmadiliev.
Yeah, it's not going to be next. I think next might be Lewis Neary.
Yeah.
That is so...
wanted that fight for so long. Really the real ones amongst them. Like, everyone knows how much of a volatile little fight that is.
Oh, and he also, is despised in Japan.
He's hated. He's banned from boxing there. So he's going to have to, if the fight happens in Japan, you're going to have to surely get some sort of special
Surely
dispensation.
it's going to be Japan.
Yeah, it would. But the Japanese board banned him.
I'd love to go to a big fight over there anyway, but particularly that one.
And the reason this fight happened because they have the money for the fighters over there, won't they, to take them over there for him. So I think Akhmadaliev will be that's a really good fight. He looked really good in his last scrap.
There was talk of that potentially going to Saudi, Inoue Akhmadaliev, at some point at the end or towards the end of the year.
It's the kind of thing they'd be looking at.
Yeah.
Akhmadaliev, Uzbek, I think he's a Muslim. Inoue's one of the best, if not the best fighter in the world.
Yeah.
So that ticks a Saudi
They'll want
box,
him over
yeah.
there sooner rather than later.
And then
he gets
Neri, Akhmadaliev, and then featherweight.
Yeah. It depends who at featherweight, though.
Any of them. They're all good fighters, all good champions. At featherweight's like over the last 18 months, it's slowly just crept up on people. I think now it's very, very interesting. And he might. You always think he'd be too small. He's too small. He's too small for super bantamweight. You thought, but he don't look so small. No, he doesn't. He was struggling to make bantam. Towards the end at bantam, he was really having to grind.
But he's brilliant. He's not just a guy who downs out on his power. He's busy. Really technically really good. He's got tremendous balance. He's never over the front foot, ever. Barely makes a mistake. Quick reactions. He's some fighter. He is. If Crawford would never existed, he's the fighter. Like it's just a shame that everyone loves heavyweights, because to be honest, because these fighters they'll make them look rubbish.
Yeah,
they're just brilliant. Yeah, I think he'll be fighter of the year next year.
Okay, Andy, don't say anything.
Please say
no. Following on from what Barry just said there, the division that catches the limelight is heavyweight. I picked him as my fighter who I want to see something from. Fury. I think Fury's going to beat Usyk, and I think he's going to beat him again in a rematch. And
he won't box again.
He will be fighter of the year.
It'll be 2 fights
for that reason.
Yeah.
I do make that a closer fight than I did previously, based on recent business. Basically, based on Fury's showing against Ngannou, it does make me wonder a bit. But he's somebody who, as I've said before, I always struggled to bet against with any confidence. And the occasions in which I have, i.e. the first Wilder fight where I thought it was a cash out, I thought he realised that it wasn't really there anymore, I was completely wrong. So I'm not going to bet against him now. And I think whoever becomes crowned undisputed world heavyweight champion, rightly or wrongly, they are going to be the fighter of the year.
Yeah. It's difficult.
Could be one each. I mean, we know there's going to be a rematch, so it could
that's
be
interesting.
It could end the year one each.
A joint fighter of the year award.
Well,
they're boxing early enough to have 3 fights in a year.
Don't be silly, Barry.
They should with the Saudis.
No.
They should force them.
Okay, my fighter of the year. So I did Fury Usyk. So I think if anyone 2-0s anybody from that, then they'll probably get it. You're right. But it's not as romantic as what I'm going for. Teofimo Lopez, I think if he gets past Jermaine Ortiz, which I think we expect him to do, beats Matias and then beats Haney or someone of that ilk. Okay, those 3 wins are massive wins. If he can, with respect to Jermaine Ortiz, not him. But my fighter of the year for 2024, I'm going to go for Bam Rodriguez.
Nice.
I think he follows on from last year. I think he beats Juan Francisco Estrada.
You can include that.
No. But I think he takes all of the momentum from that Edwards fight, beats Juan Francisco Estrada, maybe hangs around at Superfly for 1, but if not, moves up to Bantam and wins a world title there. I think he wins a world title this year, another world title at Superfly. Obviously, he's had it before. And then I think he wins a world title at Bantam by the end of the year.
Nakatani at Bantamweight, that'd be good.
I don't think Nakatani going to be there for that long.
No.
I don't think so. I mean, I think he's massive, and he's at that stage of his career. He's at that stage of his life where his body is only going to grow and he's only going to get bigger.
Anyway.
Yeah, massive fight in Japan. That
would be a
couple of years' time. Do it on New Year's Day. But you could do say Bam beats Juan Francisco Estrada and then Kazuto Ioka.
Yeah.
He picks up those 2 belts at super flyweight and then fights. Who could have a title at Bantam? Jason Maloney.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, goes and beats Jason Maloney for the bantamweight.
He fights on Saturday, doesn't he?
Yeah,
that's a hard fight for him actually.
Maloney.
He beats Maloney, but
Maloney. Both Maloney's are very organised, very tough.
Yeah,
fit. But I'm going to go for Bam Rodriguez, my fighter of the year for 2024. But I agree kind of with Andy in a sense of if one of those heavyweights.
There's a lot of ifs with that though in mind. It's got to be 2-0.
It's got to be 2-0. Both fights have got to happen.
Yeah.
The way boxing is, every answer we've had for every question is
there's huge ifs and red flags around all of it. Okay, so our fighters of the year, we've got Tyson Fury, we've got
Can't remember.
Forgot what you said.
Fight of the year.
What did Barry say?
Inouye,
obviously.
Inouye.
Inouye. And then I've gone for Bam Rodriguez. Okay, right. Our last one's a bit of a wishy-washy one, which is fine. We're all dreamers in here. Andy, going to come to you first. Your one boxing wish for 2024.
So mine's slightly odd. Because the one thing I wanted to change about boxing, I went for the removal of rematch clauses. For this one, no more misfits boxing.
Okay.
Because it won't happen, of course. They'll continue to do their thing. I never used to have a problem with it because I felt it was separate to professional boxing. I don't include Jake Paul as being misfits boxing. I don't think he does either, does he, really?
No, he's not.
But no more misfits boxing, because although I was okay with it for a while because it's separate to professional boxing, etc., I was never really someone who bought into the idea of extra eyeballs or translate all that much to actual pro boxing. Although I'm told by people who work regularly in gyms that has brought people through the doors.
It has, yeah.
But the way that some of them, not all of them, but the way that some of them behave and carry on, I think they are not treating the sport with respect. I think they are abusing the sport in a lot of ways, and I've had enough of it.
There we go. Firm from Clarke to start 2024.
I don't give a shit about me. I mean, it don't affect me.
No, but that's what I used to think as well. But now the way that they behave, the people outside of boxing, they look at it and they think that is boxing. They think that's what we're interested in.
I know they do. I do understand that. I do, and you're right. And I don't make you wrong. But for me, no, I've got to a point where I don't really worry about it. I don't watch it. For me, otherwise, I drive myself mad. My only worry is, if someone gets hurt, we will get the blame.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, that's the biggest. That's the biggest worry.
That's the only. You know, I just wish it would just be gone.
Barry,
I'm not. It doesn't keep me up at night. But you know, if I could make that, if I had the power to make that happen,
you say that though.
If I had the power to make that happen, I would.
Yeah, good.
It's a good pick, Barry.
It is a good pick. Mine's not there. Mine is the Olympics. I hope it's a real success for the boxing this year.
That's a good one.
And they get their house in order from that. I think if we have because if it's a real shit show this year, there's a danger we're not going to see it again.
I think it's going to be okay from what I've kind of beavered around in the background and discovered. I think it's going to be okay, because what looked like could be a real difficulty was that when World Boxing was formed, which was an organisation formed largely by GB and USA, at the behest, whether officially or not, but I think this is basically what happened, of the IOC, because they wanted somebody else to emerge and take control of Olympic qualification, because they did it last time around, and they didn't really want to have to continue to do it, but they absolutely did not want IBA involved in it at any cost. When they emerged, and then IBA immediately said, if you go and box in their competitions and therefore try and qualify for the Olympics, then you are dead to us, you have to choose, then that was potentially a massive problem, because they've given lots of money to lots of different federations over the last 3 or 4 years, and could therefore rely on a lot of loyalty. And that split, that schism, looked like it was going to be just a massive, massive problem. But since then, obviously the likes of Kazakhstan, I say obviously because they've competed in Olympic qualifiers, they want to go to the Olympics. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, they're still boxing in IBA competitions. They seem loyal to IBA, but not to the point where they're going to say, well, that's okay, then we don't want to go to the Olympics. So I think what IBA have had to understand now is that they're going to have to allow their member federations to do both. And so long as everybody is able to do that, and you get the best fighters at the Olympics, then the kind of inter-Nissan in-house stuff, if you're the IOC, doesn't really matter, because that's not any of your business. What you've got, if you're the IOC, is all the best fighters in the world with a route to qualifying for the Olympics that does not involve IBA. That's what they want.
Yeah.
Because they've always wanted boxing. This was something that I didn't understand for a while. I thought that they didn't want boxing, that they would prefer surfing and skateboarding and stuff like that because it's an easier sell and people aren't punching each other in the face. But it wasn't that. They've always wanted boxing because it's an original Olympic sport. And you look at some of the massive names who've come through it and all the values attached to it. They've always wanted boxing. They just don't want IBA.
Especially places like LA and all that in 2020.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't imagine the fighters that are going to come through that.
Some of the biggest names in sport have mainly come from the Olympic the system, haven't they? So in sport, because of boxing, you know what I mean? So like, you wouldn't. Why wouldn't you? They'd want it, wouldn't you? And it's probably one of the most watched outside of the athletics. Probably one of the most watched on TV, I would bet as well. So but it has to be right. When it's not right, if it's right, and even this now with another organisation with all the intentions of being correct and right. You're never quite sure. Everyone has an agenda. Everyone wants to be the kingpin. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, it has to be. I mean, the fights have to be competitive. It has to be quality, but it has to be run correctly. But that means scoring has to be right and all the rest of it. And if that's successful,
there haven't been too many scandals on that front.
Tokyo was good because IBA weren't involved.
Yeah.
So Tokyo was really good. If you remember,
and funnily enough, in Rio, there were the handful of absolute shockers, and you should never have any shockers. But outside of that, it was going well up until that Conlan fight. It really was going well. But I've been to quite a lot of tournaments in the last 2 or 3 years, and the overall standard has definitely been better. It's definitely been better. And they've had the continental qualifiers, and now there's 2 more qualifiers left. I mean, the only thing about it that I wish the IOC would do something about is that they just refuse to create more gold medals for boxing. So in London it was 10 for the men and 3 for the women. In Rio I think it was still 10-3, wasn't it? In Tokyo it was 8-5, and now in Paris it's going to be 7 for the men and 6 for the women. And of course you have to get things on an equal footing, but they just need to create 10 gold medals for each. Because we've got massive jumps now between weight divisions.
They've been messing about with the weights for the last...
Yeah. There's no 75 kilos, for example, in the Olympics anymore. Yeah. No middleweight. You go straight from 71 to 80. There's huge leaps. Huge leaps.
God. That's madness, isn't it?
That's my main problem with it. Because in the World Championships currently, there's 13 gold medals for the men and 12 for the women. So... it's and I think that's what it needs to be. And even then people think, oh wow, that's a lot, but there's still, I think the smallest jump between divisions is 3 kilos, and that's 6.6 pounds. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a lot.
Especially for the ones who are on the higher end of it. You have to make that weight all the time. Every fight you got to make the weight. And you lose a lot of weight when you fight. Like in amateur tournaments, I'd almost lose half a stone every fight.
Yeah. But I mean, GB, for example, now have got just a massive queue of fighters all wanting to try and qualify at 80, because the ones at 75, they've got nowhere to go. That I just wish the IOC would say, creating a new gold medal is a big deal. They put a massive value on it, and that's fine. But it's essentially, okay, you could argue boxing dragged its feet with the kind of introduction of females. But now it's happened, just create more gold medals. I don't see what the problem is.
Time, maybe. Goes on too long.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You need another venue.
That's a good point. That is a good point. That is something that they've definitely looked at.
Doesn't it?
That is something they've looked at, and I think they would. I think increasing the amount of gold medals would definitely mean that they would probably look for just 16 fighters to qualify in each weight or something like that, and then at some weights, that makes it incredibly difficult to get there.
So I can't remember which one of you went with that. So yours was the Olympics, Barry.
That's a really good shout.
Yours was
Ban Misfits Boxing.
Ban Misfits Boxing.
Should we swap?
Mine is a bit more. Mine's a bit more general. My one boxing wish for 2024 is less fucking moaning. From everyone, me included, us here,
the job,
promoters moaning.
Can you pay me cash?
fans moaning.
It did get particularly bad last year, I thought.
And also, last year was one of the best years that we've had in such a long time, with so many big fights. Spence Crawford was finally made. Davis Garcia was made. What other fucking hats we got? Like, there was so many things last year to be positive about. So many great fights. You keep listing them and listing them. Okay, we didn't get Usyk Fury. Outside of that,
but we should have.
Yeah,
it was scheduled.
It was gonna happen. But outside of that, what fights did we miss out on? I just think, like, boxing, it's kind of like, you know, your family member, you got a brother or something, like, everyone, you're allowed to have a go at them, but as soon as somebody else does, you get protective. And it's sort of a similar way with that. I think it's this kind of constant need to feel like...
Is he moaning?
Yeah, it is essentially, yeah. But
he's meta-moaning.
Yeah, a meta-moaning. It's, the natural inclination to always go on the negative in boxing is just doing my head in, and has done my head in for a long period of time. Don't get me wrong, call out what needs calling out. It always needs to be done. There always has to be those voices in the sport, whether it's from the media side of things or whatever side of things, to call things out. But when boxing gives you nice things, take it. Yeah? Be happy with that. This sport, which for years has not delivered what we've wanted it to, and for years and years before that, and before that, and before that's another thing as well. Boxing didn't just start not delivering for people. It's something that's always happened in the sport. It's always had problems. I would just like 2024 to be more of a positive year. I think there's so much negativity around the sport, and a lot of it is needless negativity. It's stuff that really, if there wasn't as many egos involved, wouldn't actually be anywhere near as big of a problem as it's seemingly kind of put out and becomes. And I just think that there's lots. Yeah, and I'm one of the people who is negative at
massive
times.
Ego. Oh no, negative.
The ego is only going to get bigger. But as far as kind of negativity and stuff, I feel like, yes, always call out what needs calling out, hold those to account. But understand that boxing's doing really well at the minute. Okay, yes, it's not what it was in the 80s. I don't know, I wasn't around, but it's still, compared to where we've been and the stuff that we've got coming up and everything that happened last year, it's in a good place.
A lot of the time, people will say that it's not where it was based on viewing figures, but viewing figures from the 80s are irrelevant because there was only terrestrial TV then.
And you wouldn't see all these fights that you see.
Yeah.
I put a tweet out the other day. I found the picture of Box Nation. I got this stupid ginger beard on me.
Yeah,
I said, and I do miss those days. Box Nation was a revelation, I thought.
Box Nation was great.
And it was brilliant. And it was great. It was a privilege to be a part of. And I made that channel myself. And it was a privilege to be a part of. It was a great time. But I mean, we never had it so good. We have it good now, though. We say we never had it so good, but we do now. We don't have the same three old farts talking about boxing without any bias, I don't think. Usually none of the fighters were our fighters. We never had, even though Warren owned the channel, he didn't really get involved with it. I don't think they watched it, to be fair. But either way, they didn't. They get involved. He just left us to it. I think. So we just said what we wanted to say, which is like, we don't get that freedom of speech anymore. No one ever tells you what to say, but there's a awareness of what you can say and can't say. You feel, don't you?
You'll find out quickly. If
no one tells you. No one will say this, but you have that. You're not fucking stupid. I'm stupid, but you should know. You're just trying to build a fighter for that channel, whatever. But I mean, it was never that. It never felt that case. And certainly when you showed the international fights, you could say what the fuck you want about fighters, which was fun. But we're seeing as many fights now, if not more. Arguably, because there's more platforms, which is always, that spreads the viewing figures around a little bit, but you see more fights now. We see every week. There's a fight every week. I'm always pissed off. Why am I working every weekend? I mean, that's my wish, that I work more. I don't work enough. That's my wish. That's my wish. Let's all wish together. Can we all hands on this?
But it is true, and you are right. There's more boxing that's available now, and it's more readily available. I mean, I'm grateful that I wasn't around at the times where you had to wait and watch something on a delay, or look in the back of your Boxing News or your Boxing Monthly to order tapes and stuff like that. I've never had to do that.
No, you just sneaked in the news. Like, you're one of those
bought the magazine, but it's.
Use daddy's money and sneak in.
It is. It's different. It's completely different. Even I go back to magazine, kind of when I was really trying to get into boxing full force was 2011, and the Sky cards undercards I started doing, my stuff would only make it to air if fights went short. We were on there for like 2 or 3 hours. There was none of this go on at
5 o'clock,
4:30 and put the undercard on Facebook, and then 6 or 7 fights on the live show. That wasn't happening. You know, you think back to Ben Eubank. You know, me and Matt Macklin did a pod on it, and you rewatch it, and you just remind yourself that they were on there for an hour, ITV, on a Sunday night, 1 hour, and that was it. No other fights, just straight into that main fight. You never
see anything. I boxed on the second fight, didn't I? In Old Trafford. There's only 5 fights that night on the whole bill. So only 5 fights. So I've only boxed like 2 hours before the main bill, really. Fucking first on. You know what I mean? That's what it was. They were on these big long nights of like, now it is 12 fights. You're like, by the time I got there, there's probably 20,000 people in the arena. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like, it's a mega deal. Yeah. But no one saw you on TV, and they just showed the one fight. So all the other, and there was a world title fight on there. No one's seen that either. Might have been recorded just in case it's an early finish. But yeah, no one sees nothing. Box Nation was the first one I know that started showing all the fights, because it was a dedicated channel. I'm sure someone else somewhere around the world already did that, but I mean, there was nothing. I think YouTube, someone did it on, I think Maloney or someone like that did it with Robert Waterman, I think, and they were trying to do it on when the internet was sort of a relatively new idea.
Yeah, do it on Seconds Out.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is years and years ago.
No, or Max Boxing, who was trying to do something for YouTube there, because Robert owns both of those channels.
Yeah, but I'm on about like, this is maybe like in the 90s.
Oh, when he was promoting.
Oh, right, and just show a whole. I'm not sure if they did it or they wanted to do it, and just show the whole card sort of thing. People would pay, and people go, that won't work. And literally, that's the model that we have now, isn't it? Pretty much.
Exactly.
That's ridiculous. We on about you, lunatic, and that's not there. But that's where we are. But I do think, you know, we have it. Like last year was just like every weekend there was a fight, and you got people like Steve Bunce, who've been working longer than all of us. You know what I mean? And he knows, like, he romanticises about the times when the fights were great. World title fights were genuine world title fights. That's the difference to now and my time and now. Yeah. No, there's not. But I mean, back then, every fight was a genuine world class fight. But you never saw them. And all these fighters we fell in love with, we never saw them really. We read about.
He's really good on this subject, because, you know, he's what I've always really liked about Steve is that. Yeah, but what I've always really liked about Steve is that he's been doing this a really, really long time, but he's never got kind of weary of it. He still just appreciates a really good night. And November the 18th, I remember him picking that one out. He's the
biggest actor.
But I remember him picking that one out, and, you know, Tyler Denny and Adam Azim won European titles. On the Sky show, and on the TNT show, Liam Davis defended his European title, didn't he? And he said 3 British European champions on one night. He said in the 1970s that was a good year.
If
you know, he's good for that, Bunsey. Just saying, listen, things weren't always as great in these days of yore that people talk about, because I was there and I know. Whereas it's easy to look back at previous decades if you weren't there and think, oh, it must have been better then because everything was better in the past. You know, I think, like you say, I think we've got it pretty good.
And it's not to say that boxing nowadays doesn't have its issues, and the issues now are different to the issues back then because of the times and all of that stuff, and it's a different world and yada yada yada. But
all sports have their issues, you know. It's never ideal to, well, what about them? But, you know, you look at the absolute chaos in football at the minute with VAR, and people will claim that it's ruining the sport. And I love cricket, and people will think, oh, Test cricket's died. All sports have got their problems, all of them, bar none. But there's loads of boxing everywhere you look, pretty much every weekend.
Well, I'm in Abu Dhabi Saturday.
Who's on the card?
I'm on holiday. Just want to tell you where I'm going. Abu Dhabi. I'm doing a show in Abu Dhabi. I'm doing a show in Abu Dhabi, and then on the same night there's another show in Montreal, Quebec, and all that. You know what I mean? It's like just there's fights everywhere. So I'm on the zone, live on the zone at like 2:00 in the afternoon. Maybe, I don't know. But maybe it is, maybe it's not. Try and find out.
Great company.
Yeah, but either way, I think you're right. I do think, you know, we forget how good we're having it, to be honest. But then we should always strive for more.
Yeah, there's a difference between striving for more and not appreciating what you have.
And we should take control as a boxing family. And you fans watching, we should take. I'm talking shit, you know. We should take control, like, and it's just like an experiment of the power of the people. If we all demand that I'm doing more work. Right, I don't want the work, and I'll want just an experiment, right? Because I like my kids need new shoes, right? So I need to get more money.
That's my one wish for boxing. Yeah. Now Barry gets more work. There we go.
Right. Well, all better paid.
No, just more work.
Stop hiding behind the grass. I can see you.
There we go. That brings to an end our 2024 preview. I think we got there-ish in the end. I was just trying to make sure that we don't have any categories that we didn't cover.
That's a 25-minute podcast dragged into 3 hours.
But there we go. Thank you, as always, to Barry and Andy for joining us. And to you,
the vote.
For sitting through for the last couple of hours or so. Don't forget, as Barry said, to please vote for the boxing show. Come on, vote for the boxing show.
Never mind the other stuff.
Never mind the other stuff. For the Combat Sports podcast of the year or whatever it is, just vote. Just please vote. Get Jordan off our back. But anyway, thanks very much for stopping by. Let us know who you think will be the breakout stars of 2024. What's your one wish for boxing this year? Let us know in the comments, and we will catch up with you next time.